I'm delighted to welcome you to our home. As Sarah mentioned, I'm the Dean of the Sanford School of Public Policy. We have a remarkable group of people assembled here for a meeting that we're having tomorrow on world food policy issues and the planning of a World Food Policy Center, but also tonight for this broader public event. And we are so fortunate to have the three people in this panel who've agreed to join us. A remarkable group of individuals, all quite with different backgrounds and experiences, but all passionate about the pressing world food problems that we face today, and all with wonderful ideas about solutions. So I think we're going to have a great event. Furthest from me is Shenggen Fan, who has been the Director General of the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI, since 2009. And as many of you know, IFPRI is a world-class organization leading the world in doing work on agriculture and food systems issues, publishing very influential reports and being thought leaders. He serves as well as the Vice Chairman of the World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Council on Food and Nutrition Security after serving as Chairman of the Council from 2012 to 2014. In 2014, Dr. Fan received the Hunger Hero Award from the World Food Program in recognition of his commitment to and leadership in fighting hunger worldwide. Dr. Fan received his PhD in Applied Economics from the University of Minnesota and bachelor's and master's degree from Nanjing Agricultural University in China. Immediately to my right is Betsy Holden, who serves as senior advisor to McKinsey & Company, working with clients across industries on strategy, marketing, innovation, and board effectiveness initiatives. Betsy was formerly co-CEO of Kraft Foods and CEO of Kraft Foods North America. Betsy introduced new products that generated over $2 billion in revenue, and under her leadership, Kraft received numerous marketing and new product awards. She has led key industry initiatives in food safety and in health and wellness, and as a CEO at Kraft, made some major advances and really was out front on a number of these issues. Betsy serves on a number of boards, including those for Time Inc. and Western Union. She did her undergraduate work here at Duke University, graduating summa cum laude, and holds a master's degree in marketing and finance from Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management. She is also a member of the Duke Board of Trustees. Jürgen Vogela was, in the middle here, was appointed Senior Director of the World Bank's Agriculture Global Practice in 2014. Prior, he was the Director of the World Bank's Agriculture and Environmental Services Department. In this role, he provided leadership on the bank's activities across sustainable landscapes and oceanscapes, agriculture and environmental economic policy, and risk management in markets. Since joining the World Bank in 1991, Dr. Vogela has held a number of assignments chairing the Agricultural and Rural Development Sector Board, as well as the Environment Sector Board, leading the Agriculture Unit in China and the Agriculture and Rural Development Unit of Europe and Central Asia region. He holds degrees in agricultural engineering, in crop production, and in economics and extension forestry, and earned a PhD in agriculture economics. So welcome everybody, I'm delighted to have you here. I'm going to lead off with a question, and I could probably just let you go on this and we could fill up the entire time, because I know this is a topic you will have a lot to say about it. But I'd like to begin by asking, what are the big trends affecting the food system now, and how do these affect the work you do? Shenggen, let's begin.
Some of the big trends.
Our school referred to in this way, but please proceed.
Right. I can mention a couple of them. The one of it is the population growth, you all know that. But instead of 9 billion people everybody cited for 2050, the latest UN projection actually is 9.7 billion. 700 million people more than we projected just several years ago. What does that mean? That means we must produce more food. And people are getting richer. Another big trend is rising middle income. By 2030, there will be more than 3 billion middle-class income people in the world. 2/3 of that will be in Asia. China will have 900 million middle-income people. So now we're worried about Chinese consuming too much and that could starve the world, right? And I don't know whether you know that Lester Brown, in 1995, he wrote a book, Who Will Feed China? I think Jorgen, you must know that. Jorgen was the director of agriculture in China. So obviously, China has not starved the world. Asia has not starved the world. But the rising demand is there. At a global level, we must produce 60% or more food from now to 2050. But for developing countries, the food must be doubled. Food production must be doubled. In the meantime, water, land, have become limited or degraded. So Jorgen is going to talk about that when he knows more about the environment. So, but in the meantime, our farmers are getting very old, Even in Africa, in some of the countries, the average age of farmers is more than 50. Some countries even 60. My own country, China. Now, when you go to the villages, you see elderly who are at probably 65, but they are still doing farming. So there's some of the trends that just from my perspective. I will let others to speak about other trends I can always add, but there are so many trends. I just wanted to mention 2 or 3 big trends that will affect our supply side.
Jorgen?
Yeah, maybe I should put one on top of this. First on the building. I absolutely love this space. I haven't been in a meeting room like this where I can see the sun and I have a feeling that, it's open and it's exciting. I just congratulations to whoever came up with this. This is an absolutely amazing place, right? And I'm not sure about the soothing. I didn't feel that way, but I think this is an amazing space. So really happy to be here. I came because I find it extraordinarily exciting that one of the leading schools in this country decides to establish a global food policy institute. This is really exciting and it's really good news because that's precisely what the world needs a lot more of. We need to move from individual compartmentalized thinking towards pulling things together in one place and connect all the dots. And you asked about global trends. I hope this will become a global trend. Okay, it's not yet, but you're not the first one who's going to do it, and you're not going to be the last one in this university. And I congratulate you for doing this. This is precisely what the world needs. We will have more time, hopefully, during this hour and a half to elaborate why that is, and certainly tomorrow to dig a lot deeper into it. A couple of additional trends that we see. One is that climate changes, and you can call it climate change as a whole, or you can just call it changing weather patterns. We at the World Bank see it in every single country with no exception in the last 2 or 3 years, that things are changing. There are more droughts, there are more floods, there are more heat waves, there are delays in cropping pattern seasons. It doesn't matter what you call it in the end, but it is not the same as it used to be. And it's not just because we have a spotlight on it, it's actually really changing. This is a trend that in its entirety is very, very worrisome because we're losing every year around 3 to 5% of global food production as a result of weather impacts one way or another. This is not the US only, this is not Canada or Australia, this is across the board, it's not only Africa. Of course, with El Nino right now, and probably even more worrisome with if there is a La Nina developing later in the year, it's going to get worse, it's not going to get better, because La Nina has more impact on food production than El Nino. But we see it across the board, and it's a very worrisome trend. You mentioned the other population trends. The United Nations estimates 9.7 billion people, but do the math. If by 2050, half of those people are overweight and obese, how many calories do we really need? A lot more than that. It is much more the equivalent of 11 billion plus, because there is a much larger consumption demand going forward, unless this trend changes. Let's not underestimate what that actually means. Another very important trend is the groundwater deterioration and depletion around the plate. All of you have heard this before, and it's just one other academic topic when you think about it. When you look at it in aggregate in its entirety, there are 11 major grain production basins in the world. The US has a couple. There's not a single one where the situation gets better. I don't have graphs, I don't know PowerPoints today. Just imagine 11 lines, all of them going that way over the last 40 years, and no change in sight. no one has yet figured out how to reverse the trend around a large basin. Individually, yes. In small places, yes. But no reversal in trend. This is a global trend that should worry us more than anything else, to be quite honest. If you have the money, you can go around it to some extent. But if you don't, like in parts of northern India, and parts of Africa, and other parts of the world where you don't have that sort of investment, very worrisome trend. Just leave it as that. We'll get back to more of those trends as they go.
Betsy?
I'll just build on, I won't repeat. I think the first one with the population growth, it just sort of the alarming bells of scarcity and how much more productivity is going to be needed and how much waste I think we talked about in the system. 30% in emerging markets, 30% is lost between the farm and getting to either a plant or to be consumed. In our world, in developed markets, 30% is wasted basically from at retail, at restaurants, and at our homes. So if you think about the problem we're talking about, 60% more, you've got 30% of waste right there that we have to figure out collectively between all of us how to solve it. You talked about it. It's interesting, sort of the flip sides of the coin. We've got 800 million people right now who are chronically undernourished. Right. We've got 2.1 billion people that are obese. So clearly some significant challenges. I think the other one would be food safety. Clearly, as the supply chains become global, as you see in the U.S., really, I would say a dichotomy where you've got a lot of smaller, more entrepreneurial, more local artisanal companies, and you've got large companies who have very different standards in some of the food safety issues. And so we've got some challenges in our supply chain of getting to global standards that are applied consistently across the board. And I think that's probably one of the other challenges. I think the other thing in the U.S. that we're seeing is really, polarization. So you're seeing sort of the loss of the middle, and so you're seeing desire for a lot more organic, a lot more, as I said, craft, sort of artisanal types of foods, which again aren't scaled as well. So it's again some challenges there.
Could I just add sorry, is it on? One trend, I think both Jorgen and Betsy has mentioned the hunger issues. So there's another type of hunger called hidden hunger. It's a lack of micronutrients, vitamin A, zinc, and iron. So that sort of hidden hunger is equally damaging than the visible hunger. You know, how many people have hidden hunger problem? 2 billion people. 2 billion people. So if you add all this together, 1/3 of the population has the so-called malnutrition issues. Either eat too much, or eat too little, or eat the wrong stuff. So I just wanted to add that one. And food waste issues, where we heard about it, 1/3 of our food is wasted. But don't forget, the food wasted, 1/3 of the food wasted has more nutrition. So you waste more than 1/3 of the nutrition. And also in terms of economic value, it's more than 1/3. 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted. That's double the amount of Chinese consumption every year. Just put that in perspective.
But I think that builds upon the point that you said, Jorgen, that the key is so many of our solutions are playing in one narrow sliver, and it's really integrating across is how we're going to solve. Again, I know we're sort of painting a dramatically challenging picture, which it should be, but it's not to say that it can't be solved, but the solutions are going to have to be radically different than each person solving their little piece. We need to work together, which is why an initiative like this is so encouraging.
So maybe we will have a conversation tomorrow on food waste, no question. Food waste was always there, we know that. But for some reason we kind of lived with it because it was ethically wrong and morally wrong, but it didn't really do a lot of harm in a way. Today that's profoundly different. Do you all know what the global footprint of our food production is when it comes to global greenhouse gas emissions? What percentage of the global greenhouse gas emissions are a result of the way we produce our food? Anybody want to volunteer a number?
30.
It's roundabout between 25 and 32%, depending on which ones of the studies you believe. And people just nod their heads and think, okay, do you realize what that means? Almost a third of all global greenhouse gas emissions are a result of the way we produce our food. If we waste 1/3 of that food, that gets you 10% of all global greenhouse gas emissions are produced to be just thrown away onto a landfill in the city typically and then create more methane and more emissions. Do you realize if food waste was a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter on the planet after the United States and China? So today, we have more than 1 or 2 reasons, other than the moral and ethical ones, that it's plain wrong to waste that much food. If we don't solve that problem, we will not solve the climate problem. If we don't solve the food waste problem, we will not solve the climate problem. Because the other sectors, energy and transport, and others who are the major emitters have been innovating for the last 25 years to try to find solutions how to reduce their emissions profiles. We have hybrid cars, electric cars, we have windmills, we have solar panels, right? We talked about these things. It's all out there. In agriculture, we have none of it. And in food waste, we haven't even started to think about it. We need urgently a major global effort to get into this in a big, big way. This is just one reason, and this is again why I didn't just say this lightheartedly about congratulating Duke University for taking the initiative. The world really needs this, much more than you may think at this point.